Greetings. This video, I've talked previously about words and I've touched on briefly on the double meaning, but I thought I'd actually look at the shapes of the actual letters and also a bit more about the meaning. And I'm going to try and keep this brief, but it's a huge topic in itself. So as you can see there, you have the alphabet, because that is exactly what it is. It is a gamble. Now, this alphabet comes, I got this from straight off the internet from Wikipedia. The Greek is derived from Phoenician, the first alphabet script to have distinct letters for vowels as well as consonants. So let's break this word down straight away. Where are we? So you've got, let's get the pen here, be a bit easier to do. You have got sun, and ants. That should give you a bit of a clue about what this is about. Now the vowels are also fowls. Now I've broken this down into various sections. Most of them come out in groups of 3 and 4, and I'll explain a bit more about that a little bit later. So if we go from A to Z, or A to Z, right bang slap in the middle of the 26 letters is L, M and N. Now you'll notice all 3 of those, the way we sound those words, has an E in front of them. Now E is associated with energy, in the way like Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared and so on. So I'll just run through this in the groups. So there's 4 vowels, not the current 5 originally. You've got the A, the alpha, the E for energy, the H and the Y. Now some of you might think, why is H and Y, why are they vowels? Well, when you consider you have the O sound, or the ho sound, and the ha, that's why the H is a vowel. It is also the 8th letter, which is, the number 8 is the symbol of infinity. It is the only one you can keep going round and round and round and not take the pen off the piece of paper. The Y is replaced by the I. Now, so there's your vowels. Now, you also have fowls. We're going, look what you've got here. As I said on a previous video, we are in the devil's playground. So we have got IOU, and let's face it, all this corruption in the world is funded by money and debt. This is the invisible prison bars. I mean, how many people have you spoken to of your friends who say, oh, I'd love to go there on holiday, but I can't afford it, or I can't afford to replace the car, or whatever it happens to be, even the superficial material things in this world. So our next group, so you've got the 3 there, the IOU, you've got the 4 original vowels, the A, E, H and Y. Now we've got another group here, the feminine and the masculine. Now the X obviously is the X chromosome and the Y chromosome. So the actual points you've got there are 4 for the X and 3 for the Y, but it also has a duality in it, in the way that the X, the feminine is represented by the number 3 and the masculine is represented by the number 4. So there's the duality, which is your masculine and your feminine side of your brain, which is the 10% masculine, your left side brain, and your 90% feminine, which is the subconscious. Also within this group, I've added the letter K, because it is very similar in shape to the X. And if you look at the words you've got, take for example a word like blocks. Now you could quite easily spell that with a K or an X. It wouldn't matter. We're taught to spell, and that's a big clue there. You spell and write. This is why I'm very careful what I commit to paper, because it's a slice of a dead tree. But for the benefit of this, I thought this is the easiest way to do this. Now, you also have what I call a group of energy letters. So you've got the M, as in masculine. You've got the or male, and you have the W, which is the female or the woman. Now, half of a W is a V, which is also the Roman numeral 5, which is obviously has a satanic element to it. Now you have your energy letters as well. The E for energy, which also prefixes the L, the M and the N. The O is the complete circle. And then the P as in pi, which brings us neatly back to the 3 and the 4. Now pi, the value of pi is 3.14. So the 3 is the feminine, the 4 is the masculine. The point between the two is 1. So you could say 3 and 4 makes 1 in the terms of a man and a woman reproducing and bringing into this world a new life. So the point of 3 and 4 is to create 1. And it's also in the soul sense, of course. Now your next group is the deities. Again, there's a group of 3. So you have C, S and Z or Z. So C, obviously, because it is pronounced like sea when you see something, or the ocean. The S is like the, I've lost where I am now. The S is the shape of the sound wave. If you think of heart monitors, it is also the energy that flows in your body that weaves like bootlaces, and the Z is a variation, so almost like a reversed S. Then you have the next 3, your L, your N, the one that's a prefix with the E. So you've got L, which is the Hebrew name for Saturn or Satan. The M, or reverse that, is the Me, which is connected with the Sumerian name for the soul. So this is why when you're talking about yourself, you're talking about the me. Yourself is the me. And then you have N. Now N is, if you go to Sumerian, you have Enlil and Enki. The N stands for Lord. Then your next group of 3 here, you have B, P and R. The B is the duality. It has the 2 half circles with a straight line, and then derived from that you've got the P, which is also pi, the R, which has a hook on it. Now R is also is pronounced as like AR, but it's also Ra, as in Amun Ra in Egyptian. Now your dualities, you've got there's a group of 4 here. You've got F and V and D and T. They're interchangeable. So you will have your God or your gut, your God spell. So they're interchangeable. You've got the biblical Adam and the atom. The vowels and the vowels, I think that explains why you've got the F and the V. This group of 4 sound very similar in the Germanic languages. And then, as well as your dualities, you have your what I call your ties. You've got the letter G. It's an incomplete circle with a hook on the end. You have the J, which is basically a hook. The Q, well, you're queuing up, you're waiting. It's a circle, but it is tied down. This is why I've grouped this, called this group the ties. In English, the Q is always followed by a U. So if you look at the U, what's it doing? It's turning it back on U. So that is your basic group of letters. Now, if you think about how we say words, most people will say good morning. Now, when you wake up in the morning, that is one sense of it, but you also have your you also have a wake and a mourning in the sense of a funeral. Slightly different spellings because the vowels foul the words. If you look at the older languages, like ancient Egyptian, and Hebrew and things, you'll find there are no vowels. They've been put in as guesswork. So as an example of that, in the Egyptian, you have Hotep, HTP, reversed is Ptah. What else have we got here? So further examples, you have the Son of God. Now, which way are you spelling that? Are you spelling it with an O or are you spelling it with a U? This is where the deception comes in by changing these vowel sounds. Now, the actual shapes of the letters are very interesting as well. Now, if you look at the A, you've got basically a pyramid shape. You've got the bar there. So you've got the hierarchical system. So you have the alpha or the all-far. And it's very similar, obviously, to the dollar bill with the pyramid on the back with the all-seeing eye. It's basically the same shape. Now, the X is also a cross, and obviously the dark side are very cross with the female of the species, because that is the one thing the dark side cannot do. They cannot create, they can only replicate, and this is why they are a bunch of women haters, basically, and this is why women have always been oppressed, and this is, I think, explains why you have the double X chromosome. You're double crossed. Now the Y, it's interesting that the masculine is XY chromosome, but the female is XX. So this thing with spirituality, about knowing yourself, going within and being true to yourself, well, being a male, I'm a Y chromosome, so it is right that I should be asking all the why questions. I'm a Y man, like I've said before. It's not a wise man, it's a Y man. Again, it's been fouled with the changing of the spelling. So that's your basic groups, and you'll notice you've got 26 letters, 2 blocks of 13. Obviously the number 13 has all sorts of significance to it as well. In the biblical sense, you have 2 key characters. You have Jupiter, Zeus, and you have Saturn. It's astrotheology, basically. Now you have Saturn is represented by the number 6 with Satan, and Jupiter, the Jupater or the Jesus pater, is represented by 5. So 5 and 6 makes 11. So it's 1 point off. You're missing the point because the first numbering system was Sumerian, which is the 1260 system. So 11 is 1 point off of 12. It's the same with any shape as well. For example, how many points are there on a triangle? Most people are going to say 3. No, because you've missed the centre point. And it's the same with any shape. You could say the same with a square. It's got 5 points, not 4, because again, it is all about the centre point. So how are we doing here? We're up to nearly 14 minutes. So there's a lot of information there. So I'm not very technologically up with these phones and things. So I'm going to stop that there. So there's plenty to think about, and if you want to leave any comments or anything, please do. And what you think of all this. This is purely my own design. I've not looked into this, looked at anybody else's work on letters. This is purely my own design. I'm probably going to be making a follow-up one on the actual Greek, the alpha and the omega, because that is important, and looking at some of those letters, the M is mu and N is nu. Now they're 2 names that crop up in various ancient civilizations as deity names, so that again is another subject all in itself. But basically we get our language from Greek, which is based on Phoenician. Now, if you look at Phoenician, you have a phonet. This is where you get the word phony. phonetics, and like I said before about the F and the PH. It's the same thing. You could spell it with an F, but the F and the F and the V. So you've gone from Phoenician to Venetian, which might explain when you look at the merchant traders with the spice route, how it's gone in and been adopted by Rome. And if you think also in terms of we are vessels containing mostly water, it's all terms connected with energy and water. So what is a row man? If you think of oars, and I could bring into further than that, if you don't have your own oars and you are not master of your own destiny, and you're starting to feel ill, you go to a docked oar, and obviously you will go to a docked oar at his or her practice. Well, do you really want someone to practice on you? Because same with solicitors and things, they take a Hippocratic oath. I know it's pronounced and spelled as Hippocratic, but it's hypocritical. That's something else to bear in mind. It ties in nicely with this big business called the pharmaceutical industry. Make a person sick with a vaccine and you've got a customer for life until they want to kill you off. Anyway, I shall end that there. Plenty to think about there, and there will be more follow-up videos on this subject alone.